Since Leo left, the world had lost its vibrant hue, and silence, heavy and cold, had settled within their home. Clara, the mother, would sit at the dining table, her gaze fixed on the extra plate, a ghostly reminder of the joy that once filled that space. Her blue scarf, Leo's favorite, was now a constant embrace of his absence, a soft whisper of the laughter that no longer echoed through the halls. The canvas in her studio remained stark white, a window to a world she could no longer paint, reflecting the palette of colors her heart had forgotten. Each snowflake that drifted outside the window seemed to carry a frozen sigh, adding layers to the stillness that had claimed their dwelling. David, the father, would immerse himself in work, mending things that weren't broken, his hands occupied to keep his mind at bay, yet his eyes betray the internal storm. Luna, the older sister, barely 10, clung to Leo's small blue rubber boots, feeling the void left by his tiny feet. The house, once brimming with life, was now an echo of what it once was, a sanctuary of silent grief, where every object narrated a tale of what had been lost, of the light that had extinguished too soon. The very air seemed to hold its breath, awaiting a sound, a giggle, a sign that the world would resume its spin. But only silence persisted, a silence heavier than the snow blanketing the garden, a profound quiet that settled deep into their bones, a constant, aching presence. As winter reluctantly gave way to spring, the silence in the house did not fall. Instead, it transformed into a series of separate, solitary rituals, each family member retreating further into their own bubble of grief. Clara would wander through the nascent garden, her fingers tracing the delicate new shoots, yet her gaze remained distant, lost in a landscape of memory. The vibrant greens and budding blossoms seemed to mock the barrenness within her soul, a stark contrast to the internal winter she still inhabited. David, ever the fixer, found solace in the tangible, meticulously tightening screws on a bookshelf that stood perfectly firm, polishing surfaces that gleamed without need, his movements precise and methodical, a desperate attempt to impose order on the chaos of his emotions. His beloved guitar, once a source of comfort and expression, lay untouched, a silent sentinel draped in a fine layer of dust, its strings mute, mirroring the songs he could no longer find within himself. Luna, with the quiet wisdom of a child who feels too much, would spend hours by the empty wooden swing in the backyard, gently pushing the seat with her foot, creating a small, rhythmic arc in the air. It was a silent conversation, a tender acknowledgement of the absence, a way to keep a small part of Leo's playful spirit in motion, even if only in her imagination. The house, though filled with the promise of spring outside, remained a collection of isolated islands, each person adrift in their own sea of sorrow, connected only by the invisible threads of their shared loss, yet unable to reach across the growing chasm between them. One late spring afternoon, as the sun began to cast longer, warmer shadows across the burgeoning garden, Luna, in her quiet explorations, stumbled upon a forgotten piece of joy. High in the gnarled branches of the old oak tree, a splash of vibrant color caught her eye. Leo's kite, snagged and tangled, a silent sentinel against the cerulean sky. It had been there for months, a testament to a playful day cut short, a symbol of a dream left unfulfilled. For the first time since Leo's departure, Luna didn't feel the familiar sting of tears. There was no overwhelming wave of sadness, no immediate ache in her chest. Instead, a different emotion stirred within her, a quiet curiosity, a gentle pull of intrigue. She simply stood there, gazing up at the colorful fabric fluttering gently in the breeze, a silent question forming in her young mind. It wasn't a question of
why or how, but rather a simple, profound, what now? The kite, once a source of pure, unadulterated delight, now felt like a message, a small, tangible piece of her brother, suspended between earth and sky, waiting to be rediscovered. It was a beacon, not of despair, but of possibility, a small, hopeful spark in the quiet landscape of their grief, a subtle shift in the heavy atmosphere that had enveloped their lives. The world, for a fleeting moment, seemed to hold its breath with her, as if awaiting her next move, a silent acknowledgement of the delicate turning point she had unknowingly encountered. That evening, a hesitant request broke through the usual dinner-time quiet. Luna, her voice soft but resolute, asked her father, David, for help to retrieve the kite. David, caught off guard, initially hesitated, his gaze drifting to the dusty guitar in the corner, a symbol of his own unaddressed sorrow. The thought of engaging with something so directly connected to Leo felt like an intrusion, a reopening of a wound he desperately tried to keep closed. But the earnest plea in Luna's eyes, a flicker of something he hadn't seen in months, not sadness, but a nascent hope, stirred something within him. With a sigh that carried the weight of unspoken grief, he rose, retrieved the old wooden ladder from the shed, and began to carefully position it against the sturdy trunk of the oak. It was a simple act, yet profound in its execution. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, father and daughter were engaged in a shared purpose, a quiet collaboration that transcended the individual cocoons of their pain. Clara, drawn by the unusual activity, watched from the kitchen window, her blue scarf clutched lightly in her hand. As she observed David's cautious assent and Luna's eager anticipation, a faint, almost imperceptible curve touched her lips, not a full smile, but a ghost of one, a fragile hint of warmth in the cold landscape of her heart. The setting sun bathed the scene in hues of gold and rose, painting a tableau of tentative connection, a silent promise that even in the deepest shadows, a glimmer of light could still find its way. The kite, carefully untangled and gently repaired, lay on the living room floor, a vibrant splash of color against the muted tones of the carpet. Its once frayed edges were now neatly mended, a small testament to David's quiet dedication. Luna, kneeling beside it, carefully smoothed out the creases, a sense of purpose radiating from her small frame. "Let's fly it," she suggested, her voice barely a whisper, yet it resonated with an unexpected strength that cut through the lingering quiet. Clara and David exchanged a glance, a silent conversation passing between them, a mix of trepidation and a burgeoning, fragile hope. It was a step into uncharted emotional territory, a direct confrontation with the memory they had all so carefully avoided. Yet Luna's unwavering gaze held them, a gentle but firm invitation to step beyond their individual grief. Together, they made their way to the open field behind their house, the kite held carefully between them. The first attempts were clumsy, the kite dipping and swaying, refusing to catch the elusive wind. But with each shared effort, each small adjustment, a rhythm began to emerge. Finally, with a collective breath, the kite soared, catching a gust of wind, climbing higher and higher into the vast summer sky. The three of them stood there, side by side, their heads tilted back, watching its ascent. No words were spoken, but in that shared gaze, in the silent arc of the kite against the blue, something shifted.
They didn't speak of Leo, not directly, not with words that could break the delicate spell. But he was undeniably there, present in the tautness of the kite string that connected their hands, pulling gently at the very heart of their family, drawing them upwards, towards the endless expanse of the sky. Each gust of wind that lifted the kite higher felt like a whisper, a playful nudge from a memory that was no longer just a source of pain, but a gentle, guiding presence. The vibrant colors of the kite, dancing against the boundless blue, seemed to infuse the air with a lightness they hadn't felt in what felt like an eternity. For a moment, the heavy cloak of grief lifted, replaced by a fragile sense of shared wonder, a collective breath of fresh air. It wasn't a forgetting, but a remembering in a new way, a way that allowed joy to intertwine with sorrow, hope to bloom amidst the lingering ache. Luna, her small hand clasped firmly around the string, felt a warmth spread through her chest, a quiet certainty that Leo was with them, not gone, but transformed into the very breeze that carried their kite. Clara, watching the kite's graceful dance, felt a stirring within her, a faint echo of the creative spirit that had long been dormant. David, his grip on the string firm, felt the tension in his shoulders ease, a silent melody beginning to form in the quiet corners of his mind. The field, once just a patch of grass, became a sanctuary, a space where their fragmented hearts found a moment of quiet communion, tethered by a simple string to a memory that was now soaring free.
As summer faded into the rich hues of autumn, a subtle transformation began to unfold within the quiet walls of their home. Inspired by the simple act of flying the kite, Clara found herself drawn back to her studio, not with the intention of painting portraits, but with a newfound desire to capture the essence of memory. Her brushes, once stiff with disuse, now moved with a tentative grace across the canvas. She painted the kite not as a static object, but as a vibrant streak against a boundless sky, a symbol of freedom and connection. She painted Leo's blue rubbered boots, not as empty vessels, but as anchors to a joyful past filled with imagined mud and puddles. She captured the rough texture of the oak tree's bark, the way sunlight dappled through its leaves, each stroke a meditation on the beauty of fleeting moments. The colors, once absent from her palette, slowly began to return, first in soft, muted tones, then with increasing vibrancy, breathing life back into her art and, unknowingly, into her own spirit. One crisp autumn evening, a sound unfamiliar yet deeply comforting drifted from David's study, the gentle strumming of his guitar. He had finally picked it up, his fingers tentatively finding the chords of a simple, sweet melody that Leo had always loved. The notes, though a little rusty, filled the house with a warmth that had been missing for too long, a soft, melancholic tune that spoke of love and remembrance.
Luna, drawn by the unexpected music, crept silently to the top of the stairs, peering down into the softly lit living room. There, bathed in the warm glow of a lamp, sat her father, David, his head bowed slightly as his fingers danced across the guitar strings. The melody, simple and heartfelt, was a lullaby of remembrance, a quiet conversation with a love that transcended absence. A gentle smile touched Luna's lips, a genuine, unburdened expression that had been rare in the past year. She watched, a silent witness to the delicate dance of healing unfolding before her eyes. The house, once so heavy with unspoken grief, now seemed to breathe a little easier, the air infused with the soft strains of music and the subtle scent of paint from Clara's studio. The colors that Clara was bringing back to her canvases weren't just confined to her art. They seemed to seep into the very fabric of their home, chasing away the lingering grays and blues of their winter of sorrow. The once silent rooms now held the promise of shared moments, of quiet creativity and gentle melodies. It wasn't a return to what was, but an evolution, a rebuilding of their family around the space Leo had left, making it a part of their new reality. The journey of grief was not a linear path with a clear end, but a winding landscape they were learning to navigate, finding beauty in the unexpected corners and solace in the small, everyday acts of love and remembrance. The house, once a monument to loss, was slowly, tenderly becoming a home again, filled with the echoes of a love that would never truly fade.
A year had passed since Leo's departure, and though the ache of his absence remained, it was no longer a gaping wound, but a tender, cherished scar, woven into the very fabric of their lives. The family, no longer broken but reshaped, decided to visit Leo's favorite spot,
a serene, quiet lake nestled among rolling hills, where he used to skip stones and chase dragonflies. It wasn't a pilgrimage of farewell, but a gentle reaffirmation of his enduring presence in their journey. Together they knelt by the water's edge, each holding a small, smooth stone. With quiet reverence, they whispered their messages, a memory, a hope, a simple, "We love you," and then, one by one, tossed the stones into the water, watching the ripples spread across the surface, carrying their love outwards. It was a ritual of carrying him forward, a gentle acknowledgement that love doesn't end. It transforms, becoming a part of the landscape of their hearts. The air was crisp with the promise of a new winter, but the cold no longer felt desolate. As the sun began its slow descent, painting the sky in hues of soft orange and deep purple, they turned towards home. The path ahead, though still long, no longer felt insurmountable. Each step was a quiet promise, a shared breath, a testament to the resilience of their bond, a silent agreement to face whatever lay ahead, together. The road home stretched before them, a familiar ribbon winding through the quiet winter landscape. Their shadows, long and intertwined in the fading light, danced ahead, a visual metaphor for their enduring connection. Clara reached for David's hand, her fingers intertwining with his, a silent understanding passing between them. Luna, walking just ahead, occasionally glanced back, a soft, knowing smile on her face. The house, distant but warm, beckoned them with its soft, inviting glow, a beacon of comfort and belonging. It was a home that had known profound sorrow, but had also witnessed the slow, tender blossoming of hope. They walked, not as three broken individuals, but as a family, forever changed by their loss, yet whole in their shared remembrance, their love for Leo a quiet, constant presence that guided their steps. The journey of life, they had learned, was not about leaving pain behind, but about finding a way to carry love and memory forward, weaving it into the tapestry of every new day. The path to healing was not a straight line, but a meandering river, sometimes turbulent, sometimes calm, always flowing, always moving them towards a deeper understanding of what it meant to be truly together. And as they drew closer to the warm light of their home, they knew, with a quiet certainty, that no matter how long the road, they would always find their way, hand in hand, on their way home, carrying their love with them, always.